First thing I want to do is remove the wheel. If you have these hubcaps, just go ahead and use a 19mm socket, remove all these little plastic nuts that hold the hubcap on, and then you can go ahead and remove the wheel. Set this aside, and continuing with the 19mm socket, remove the wheel. At the top of the shock absorber, you'll see two 13mm nuts. Go ahead and remove both of those. And from underneath, 21mm socket. Go ahead and remove this bolt. Some washers on here. There's this one. There's going to be one on the inside as well. Don't lose this. Now slide the shock absorber straight down. And there it is. At this point, you would want to remove this shock mount off of the rest of the shock. So I'm going to try a 17mm socket. I'm saying that not because that's not the size, but because sometimes the whole shaft starts spinning, so we'll have to hold it here and then use a wrench. But sometimes, if you have an impact gun, you can get away with just doing this. I'm going to hold this part. It worked. Usually if you do it by hand, you'll start spinning the whole shaft, and well, that's not going to work out for you. So remove this washer, set that aside, and remove the shock mount. And then here is your old shock absorber. On the bottom of this shock mount, you had this washer. For me, it got stuck here, but make sure you keep that in mind. Don't put this back on the new shock without this washer. Take your shock absorber and install one of these washers just like that. And then you can take the shock mount, slide it down just like that. And then at the top, you have another washer like this. And you have a little bit of thread left in there, so go ahead and put on your mounting nut. And let's tighten it up. I'm going to go until threads start showing through the neoprene locking part of the nut. Maybe a couple more. That should be good right there. You can see the threads just barely poked through, so that's perfect. Now before we actually install this shock absorber, you have to prime it or start it. What that means is press it down all the way until it bottoms out, and then let it come back up by itself all the way. Do this 3, 4, 5 times maybe. That's bottomed out. Let it go all the way up. This is going to mix in all the oils that are inside and basically activate it so that it works right off the bat. If you don't do this, you might get some clunking and banging over bumps until the oils mix in by themselves, and that can actually decrease the lifespan of the shock. So you definitely want to make sure you start it before you put it into the vehicle. And as you do this more times, you'll notice it gets a little stiffer, and that's normal. That's exactly what you want. So go all the way bottomed out one way, and then let it fully extend the other way. Take the new shock absorber and sneak it in here past the sway bar. Might be a little bit difficult, but there is always a way. So once you get it up in here, push it up all the way. Now up here, line it up with the 2 studs. Put on the 2 mounting nuts. Let's snug these up and then torque them to 18 foot-pounds. And 2. Put the bolt in at the bottom. However, don't forget that it had 2 washers. One that went on the inside, went like that, and this little one on the outside. At this point, you're going to want to compress it up. Slide the bolt in. Start it by hand. Go ahead and bottom it out. 133 foot-pounds for this bolt. That should be good right there. Let's get the wheel back on, put on all 5 of your lug nuts, bottom them out, and torque them to 100 foot-pounds. And if you have the hubcap, reinstall that, line up the hole with the valve stem, and tighten up these plastic nuts by hand. That way they don't strip out. Down the road you go.